Check, 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 check. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's too loud. Hello. Hi, Nancy. Welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian, Universalist, welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies, beliefs, various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, may this be a place of rest and restoration. I'm Twinks Hastings, Director of Lifespan Religious Education, happy to be welcoming you to the service today with our Interim Minister, Rev. Karen Anderson, behind me, and our Music Director, Kaiser Fern. Our services are recorded and available on YouTube midweek. Masks are now optional in worship, although this back right-hand space is a place where masks are required still. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, welcome. If you would like to learn more about First Parish, please fill out a welcoming card found on the pew, in the back of the pew in front of you. A big welcome to those watching at home. Let's wave to them. We are so glad that you're here with us. Welcome on this morning that we make sacred by our presence together. We have a few announcements this morning. First of all, thank you to all who came to our event yesterday. I heard it was a great success despite the weather. And a special thanks to Sue Trask for leading up and organizing this event. Thank you. We have some exciting fall faith formation experiences, including a Boston pilgrimage to learn about our histories and the parts that we don't talk about. You can find information about this trip and other programs in the Angle, or we have some flyers at coffee hour. You all are so that we have come to a stalemate or a impasse on the new mission. So 2 of the options received roughly the same amount of votes. So we're going to do a re-vote with just those 2 options. And that is that. You can do that at coffee hour, and there's a link in the Angle. And lastly, at 1 p.m. this afternoon, we'll be holding a memorial service for Nancy Phillips, and all are welcome. And Karen has an announcement?
I just have a real quick one. You may have seen in the Angle that I asked you guys to bring next week to church a banned book that you love. I included the list of banned books. I will send it out again. Please bring in a banned book next week, and hopefully you're okay with somebody else borrowing it. We're going to do some swapping of banned books, okay?
Welcome to worship. It is so good to be together.
Sometimes we fall down, can't get back up. We're hiding behind skin that's too tough. How come we don't say I love you enough till it's too late? It's not too late. Our hearts are hungry
crash till it's head on. Why do we think we're right when we're dead wrong? Never know a good thing till it's gone. Yeah, we gotta start looking at the hands of the time they've been giving them. This is all we got, and we gotta start thinking. If every second counts on the clock that's ticking, gotta live like we're dying. We only got 86, 400 seconds in a day to turn it all around or throw it all away. Gotta tell them that we love them all we got a chance to say. Gotta live like we're dying, like we're dying, oh, like we're dying, like we're dying, oh, like we're dying.
Good morning. When I was in 6th grade, there was a bicycle store on Main Street that I would walk by all the time, and in the front window for a number of months was a unicycle. And I swear to God that unicycle was like, you have to buy me, you have to buy me. Anyway, so I decided I had to buy the unicycle, right? Because I really wanted to learn how to ride a unicycle, and I asked my parents whether or not they'd pay for the whole thing, and they said no. So I spent 2 months like mowing a bunch of lawns and making enough money that so at the end of the summer, I learned how to ride this unicycle. And it was so much fun. I had like a little thrill going all the time. And I went down the driveway and back up the driveway and down the driveway and back up the driveway. And then I'd do the sidewalk, but that was a little sketchy because, you know, there's bumps in the sidewalk. But I learned how to stay like this, right? And how to do a circle like this. What's hard about the unicycle is you can't coast. You have to pedal all the time, right? So my dad made a hook in the garage for me to hang my unicycle up all the time. At the end of the summer, I was just so delighted to be on my unicycle, and I couldn't wait for the winter to come. And then that next spring, I pulled my unicycle out again, and I had delight going on all the time. Now, my friends that summer told me that they wanted to be in the 4th of July parade on their bikes, and that they had done it before, and they had a bunch of candy that they threw out to people on their bikes, and they're like, you should do it on your unicycle. And I'm thinking, yes, that's awesome, what a great idea, right? So I bring my unicycle and my little bag of candy, and you get queued up if you've ever been in a parade, right? So we were behind the Masons, and they're going along, and I get about like 8 blocks, which is the farthest I have ever gone on my unicycle, and it's 90 degrees in Wisconsin with like humidity, and I am sweating everywhere, and I'm tired already, right? Because you can't coast. In front of me are railroad tracks, which I failed to like think through, right? So I'm going over railroad tracks, and I'm like hopping kind of over them, and I make it through, and I'm like, oh my God, thank God. But then I realized I got another like 10 blocks of this stupid parade now. That's how I'm thinking about it. And doing my unicycle, I get to where the doctor's office is that I went to all the time, and I'm looking down Main Street, and I'm like, oh my God, it's on a slight slant. What am I going, like this? I keep pedaling, I am sweating everywhere. I get all the way done, and I'm like, that was the dumbest idea I've ever had in my life. And I was so mad at myself for thinking that would be fun, right? So I take my unicycle home, put it in the garage, hang it up, and I didn't ride it again. 2 years later, we sold it at a garage sale. I have come back to that numerous times in my life and thought about that. I hung up my delight and didn't take it down again because what got in my way was thinking that Or, throughout life, like you think you're too old for something, or you had one bad experience with something, so then you get rid of something that brought you joy. I honestly think it's one of the reasons we come to church. Some people say that, you come to church to learn a new thing or have your mind kind of broadened. Or you come to rectify something or feel like you're restored again, which some of that is true, but I actually think we as Unitarian Universalists often come to church to remind each other that we want to be able to live into the fullness of who we are in this life as much as possible, and as much as possible, to not hang up our delight. Welcome to our celebration of life. So good to be with all of you. Would you please, with enthusiasm, greet your neighbor this morning?
Good morning. Let's sing our opening song, which can be found
doing
on your
chalice,
insert.
Are you
can
doing
stay,
chalice?
You can remain standing if you're standing, and we'll sing what's on your insert. It's on a yellow piece of paper on the back of where the mission is. Swimming to the other side.
Beneath the great big dipper, we are washed by the
This morning, I'm going to invite Deborah Medansky to light our chalice. She is one half of the two Deborahs who are chairing the Children and Youth Faith Formation Committee this year. As we light this flame of hope, may our congregation become a kaleidoscope of souls and people. In the presence of this flame, in me, in you, in us, is an invitation to sit at the table. May we tend our soul fire through these challenging times to open the hearts and minds of all who enter our doors. Our story this morning is about two friends. When Astrid came home from the hospital, Eli was waiting. He was her first friend. In time, Eli also became Astrid's bodyguard, her favorite pillow, and sometimes her best hiding place. Astrid and Eli had many things in common. They lived in the same house, they ate at the same table, and they slept in the same bed. There was only one difference. Astrid was a girl and Eli was a boy. Oh, and a dog. As they grew older, Astrid began to notice other differences. I'm getting bigger than you, she said. Yes, thought Eli, but I'm getting older than you. It was true. For every birthday Astrid celebrated, Eli had the equivalent of 6 or 7 birthdays, sometimes 8. When Astrid was 6, she was still a young girl, but Eli was an old dog. By then, Astrid noticed it too. You walk so slowly now, Astrid told Eli one day at the beginning of the summer. They stopped at the park to buy a bucket of popcorn. Popcorn is nice, thought Astrid, but let's pretend we're eating spaghetti with meatballs. Spaghetti with meatballs, thought Eli? That sounds delicious. After they finished their snack, Astrid took Eli to the playground. Eli, Astrid said, have you ever been down a slide? You really should before you get too old. So with Astrid's help, Eli slid down the sun-warmed slide. I'm going to make a list, said Astrid, of all the things you should do before you get too old to do them. We can do everything on this list together. The first thing on the bucket list was a bike ride. I'm not sure I can teach you how to ride a bike, Astrid told Eli the next day, but I can give you a ride on mine. And she did. This is better than the car, Eli thought. The next day, Astrid took Eli to the library, where they checked out a lot of books, some of them are now banned, about dogs. I don't know why I've never read to you before, said Astrid. I'm glad I put this on your bucket list. A week later, they went to see a movie. Astrid asked special permission from the theatre owner, and they were allowed in to watch Lassie. They came home and slept under the stars until it started to rain. Then they went inside. Eli slept with Astrid under the covers. That was also on the bucket list. The following week, Astrid gave Eli a bubble bath. After that, she brushed his clean fur for a full hour. Look how handsome you are, Astrid said. I am handsome, thought Eli, but I'm also very old. And it was true. Astrid knew it too. So she added one more thing to their bucket list. The last treat would be a surprise for Eli. On Saturday night, Astrid took Eli to a restaurant for dinner. 2 plates of spaghetti with meatballs, Astrid told the waiter. And when their meals arrived, Astrid beamed. This is what you deserve for being the best dog and best friend in the whole wide world. It was delicious, thought Eli, but I wish we were having popcorn in the park. As the weeks passed, Eli's fur faded from gray to white. His eyesight became weak. His legs often ached. He no longer had strength to walk to the park. So they stayed home and remembered many happy times together. Is there anything else you want to do before you get too old? Astrid asked. Anything at all? Whatever it is, I'll add it to the bucket list. This, thought Eli, just this, as they lay on the couch together. Being with Astrid was the only thing on Eli's bucket list, and it was the only thing that ever had been. And with that, we're going to sing out our children.
It's a time in our service where we offer our heartfelt gratitude to organizations in our community that share our values along with the ones that we hold dear to ourselves. This morning's offering is a split plate with the Youth Outreach and Hospitality. It's an action team of the Nauset Interfaith Association. They offer support to Cape Cod youth who are at risk of becoming homeless or who otherwise experience exclusion from the community. A significant percentage of youth who access this organization identify as LGBTQ+. Let us be mindful that the religious person is the grateful person, and the grateful person is the generous person. We'll now take the offering mindfully and gratefully.
You are the new day.
invite you to join with me in the spirit of prayer and meditation, followed by some shared silence. Please get comfortable in your seat. And take a deep breath in with me now. And let us turn inward together. I share these words with you by the Reverend Dick Gilbert called Celebrate the Interval. Life is a brief interval between birth and death. It is composed of a few notes between prelude and postlude. It is a drama quickly played between the rising and falling of a curtain. What shall we do with that interval of time? What combination of notes shall we play? What thespian mask shall we wear? The brevity of day is full of pain. Discordant notes reverberate in the soul. The ending of the play is ever in doubt. Why, then, are we so careless with time? Why do we not sound the music of our hearts? Why do we not feel the stage beneath our feet? Is it not time to enjoy the interval? Is it not time to play our melody? Life is a brief interval between birth and death. May we celebrate the interval with joy. May we sing the song belonging to us. And may we act as though our very life depended on it, because it does. May the silence we have shared continue to hold and heal us all. Amen. I'm going to start off today by addressing the dash. Yes, the dash. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that is etched into tombstones between one's birthday and one's death day. That dash actually says a lot, and yet it doesn't say anything, right? At least on a tombstone. But if it could say something, it sure as heck should fill up a lot more space than the birthday and the death day. In fact, when you think about it, the dash is obviously the most important part, because that's the space that we all occupy right now. And yet we forget sometimes how incredibly precious this is, the dash part. This month, our worship theme is invitation, and thus I'm inviting you actually to step into a little bit of courage, okay? The courage actually to face up to the fact that we're all going to die, that all of this is impermanent. For me, the thing I think we need to be most courageous about is to remember to be true to the things that we've actually committed ourselves to be or live into or try before we die. To contemplate our dash, which sometimes comes about by thinking about our imminent demise, of course, but also by remembering what we are called to do and be while we're here, when we're alive. A couple years ago, I found this wonderful kind of like community artist. Her name is Candy Chang. And she lives in New Orleans, and she does art that engages communities. It brings people together to widen their perspective or engage them in the life of a stranger. Anyway, so there are a lot of abandoned buildings in New Orleans, and she and some of her community-minded friends, they took some chalk paint and actually, like chalkboard paint, okay? And they painted the four sides of this abandoned building. And on the top, she wrote, "Before I die, I want to." And then they had lines, and they invited everybody in the community to come forward and add what they wanted to do before they died. So homeless people did it, people who had homes, people who were young, were old, people of all colors and kind of varieties of how you show up in life, right? And this is some of the stuff that was on the wall. "Before I die, I want to straddle the international date line. Before I die, I want to be tried for piracy. Before I die, I want to hold her one more time. Before I die, I want to be someone's cavalry. Before I die, I want to plant a tree." Chang comments on this whole piece that she did. She says, "Two of the most valuable things that we have in life are our time and our relationships with other people. In our age of increasing distractions, it's more important than ever to find ways to maintain perspective and remember that life is both brief and tender. Death is something that we are often encouraged not to talk about or think about. But I've come actually to realize that preparing for death is one of the most empowering things you can do. Thinking about death clarifies your life." I love that line, right? Tender and brief. And thinking about death clarifies your life. So in order to help us get there today, I had Roger, thank you, Raj, make one of these. Okay, so I want to talk through today some of the things that I will put on this as a means for you to think through what's important to you. Now, this is different than a bucket list, okay? These are things that I want you to think about living into because you keep forgetting about them. Or things that I want you to think about that you get right, like right relationship to. okay? I want to start off by this. And I'm going to, by the way, you're going to go through the line, and then I'm going to pull this board out, and you all get to put what you want to do before you die. You got it? Okay, and you better do it, too, or your name is Mud. Okay, so in order to start about this, I'm going to start with my dad. So one day, my dad, well, let me go back and just say that my dad died 10 years ago, and he was one of my all-time favorite people in the world, and I know I'm lucky to say that, right? Anyway, one day, Dad is talking to me, and he goes, I had one of those dreams last night. And I'm like, what dream? And he goes, you know, the dream where you're laughing so hard in your dream, it wakes you up because you're laughing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, you know, that dream, like you're laughing so hard, you wake up because you're, like, Dad, I have never had that dream in my life. And he goes, I thought everybody had that dream. I thought about that for months, honestly. It took me a while to digest, actually, what was all behind all of that. And for me, I really want to so badly. Right? All right. Now, here's what I realized. I can't just like will that to happen, right? I mean, it's not like I could go to bed and I'm like, okay, come on, Karin, wake up laughing. It's not going to happen. The fact that I thought more about as I went through this is it has to do with how my father was in the world, actually. And what gets in my way of waking up laughing is often something that didn't really matter to him. He lived as if working on his eulogy, not on his resume. He lived as if working on his eulogy, not on his resume. He focused his life on who he was, not on what he did. And that's hard to do. Often we are known, or at least we think we are known, to others by our accomplishments, right? As if we are human doings rather than human beings. And yet, that's a huge, huge trap. Truth is, I spent my life kind of watching my dad not fall into that trap, which my second before I die is related to the first, but in a different way. It's this. Before I die, I want to play to the right audience. I'm going to explain that a little bit. Okay, so one of the ways to get there is I did my dad's eulogy, and I want to share some of the stories that I told about him because it's going to get to this, okay? When I was a kid, we always went on Sunday afternoon drives, and we'd get in the car and we'd say, well, where are we going? And he goes, I don't know, we'll figure it out when we get there. And sure enough, we ended up in little towns in Wisconsin, and if you at all understand Wisconsin, a four-corner has a church and a bar, and that counts as a town. Kind of does, right, Linda? Yes. All right. Anyway, so he was always curious about stuff. So, you know, sometimes it would be like some Greek revival house that was falling down, or like he'd find a patch of raspberries and we'd all get out of the car and get raspberries and then get back in. He's the only person I've ever known to get lost on purpose. And that's what he did over and over again. My dad was a Renaissance man. He could sing, he could act, he could play the piano with abandon, Scott Joplin and Chopin. He could make furniture, build houses, add on to houses, draft his own architectural plans. He was an award-winning traditional Norwegian painter, and he could create magnificent gardens. He also could sit on a bench for hours and just watch people. When I was was in elementary school, we were driving once from Milwaukee up to Waupun, where we lived in this little town, and we're on the interstate, right? And we're going like 60 miles an hour, and Dad goes, "Oh my God, look at that house over there. I bet you that's a post and beam house." And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? There's like a farmhouse and then a house behind it that has that asbestos shingle stuff, you know what I'm talking about? Like falling off. You could kind of see it, but he's looking at it driving down the interstate. A couple months later, we're doing the same drive, and he goes, "Huh, I wonder if that farmer would be interested in me taking that apart and like building it somewhere else." What? 2 months later, he's driving by, and he goes to my mom, "I think I should stop and talk to that farmer." Sure enough, he pulls off like the exit away, and you know how they build interstates like right next to roads that are right there? So we're driving down the road, we come to this farmhouse, and we're at the farmhouse, and there are 2 dogs like on chains outside that are freaking out that we're there. Dad kind of ignores them, walks up to the door, knocks on the door. The farmer comes out. He talks to the farmer while he's got his screen door open. And then the 2 of them walk around to the back of the house, and they look at this little farmhouse, and he gets in the car and he goes, "Well, turns out the farmer would be overjoyed for me to take it apart and get rid of it." It's actually the original homestead on that farm, had been there from like 1840. Sure enough, he was a teacher at the time, and he got all of his friends, and that summer they took that sucker apart and labeled all of it and then put it in somebody's barn. 20 years later, one of his friends put it up together back according to plan and put his sheep in there. Now, the older I got, the more I realized that there was something about him that he was curious all the time, and decided often that there was a next project just waiting for it to call to him. So I'm driving by a cemetery with him once, and he goes, "Wait a minute, I got to show you something." So we drive into the cemetery, and there is a monument for somebody's grave, right? And it's an arched kind of stone. It doesn't go this way, it goes this way. Am I making sense? Right? Okay. And he goes, "I want to make that for my garden, and I want to make it out of wood." And I'm like, okay. Now, I had taken a lot of woodworking in college, and to make a piece of wood go 180 degrees around, because he wanted that one piece to turn 180 degrees. So what does he do? He buys a piece of redwood that's like 12 feet long and 2 inches, and he makes these troughs of a sort, and he puts water in the bottom of them and pulleys on both ends, and for 2 months he starts bending that piece of wood up, right? It gets to about 145 degrees, and then it snaps. And then he calls me up, and he goes, "Karen, can you call up Skip Johnson and ask him what I'm doing wrong?" And I'm like, okay. So Skip Johnson was one of my wood professors in college, right? This is like 10 years out of college, and I'm supposed to call up my wood professor and go, "How do you do this," right? Anyway, so I call up Skip Johnson. I tell him who I am again. I tell him what my dad's doing, and the guy starts laughing so hard on the line, and he goes, "Tell your dad to get another project." So I call Dad back up, and I'm like, "He said to get another project." And Dad says, "Well, okay." And then he goes back at it again. He buys another piece of wood. He takes 4 months now to move that into 180 degrees. He got it to 170. It was still wet, and he made that arch in his garden. Now, at that memorial, when people came through the line, I had about 7 people say to me, "You know, I don't think I've ever been to a service and not know what someone did for a living. What did he do?" And I realized I didn't even put it in there. I didn't mention that he had been a teacher in his life, because it didn't matter about who he was. Which brings me back to before I die, I want to play to the right audience. I spent years of my life worried about my accomplishments, making sure I had something published, that I had a senior position that I was influential about, and that there were people that were like impressed by me. And then, once I had all of that, it came crashing down on me. And I was a little wandering in the wilderness for a while. I had lost the position and the title and the wow, I'm so impressed by you. And somewhere along the line, I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't really matter. In part because it helps to remember my dad. The only people I really want to impress, honestly, anymore are myself, my husband, and my children. That's it. It's pretty small, pretty little. It doesn't make my life smaller or less impactful, but it does make it more important to me and those who love me the most. And that's not now what I care about is that, and maybe you should too, right? Play into the right audience. I don't always get there, that's why it's up there. So my last two come from my greater list of before I die I want to, which are these, by the way, and I've shortened this list, and you're going to think I'm absolutely insane, but here's my list. You'll get the gist of this, okay? Before I die, I want to learn to fly the trapeze. I want to learn to box and to salsa. I want to weld. I want to play a drum set. I want to whistle with my fingers, and I want to pick a lock. Before I die, I want to write a graphic novel, create a comic strip, create a cartoon for The New Yorker. I want to record a song with my daughter, Neva. I want to have someone make me an adult-size hippity hop. You know what hippity hops are? You remember those things? The round thing that were like red and they had, come on, man, an adult-size one? Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, it would be cool. I want to lay under a piano with my feet against the soundboard while a talented pianist plays. Oh, damn. I want to make a tree house that we live in the summertime. I want to see the northern lights. I want to tie a cherry stem in my mouth. I want to live off the grid. And I want to forgive myself for not being what I don't want to be anyway. So there's a lot to unpack in that, but I want to hit two because I think they're likely may resonate with you, okay? I have a lot on my list about play, mainly because somehow we get a little stodgy and boring and stiff when we get older. We forget life is a giant playground, if only we'd see it that way. I read this line the other day from this guy who was talking about this very thing, and he said, I find it hard work to get young again after you've decided to be old. I find it hard work to get young again once you've decided to be old. So I know this is true, and it kind of astounds me. A couple years ago, the worship theme actually was play, right? And I wanted to do this social science experiment to see what's up with adults. Is it true that they just don't know how to have fun anymore, as they've decided to be old? Or is it that they aren't presented with the opportunity to have fun? So I went to this bakery in Pittsford, New York, called the Village Bakery. And I told them what I wanted to do, and they said, go ahead. Now, they have an enormous parking lot that's like a little, like double the size of this stage, right? And I made a giant hopscotch with chalk, right? And in the front, I said, jump if you are over 21, right? And on those squares, I put, jump on me, you rock, love more, smile, laugh, right? All kinds of things. But it was double the size of this, right? It was huge. I was so excited about it. Then I go inside, and I sit in that bakery with a piece of paper, and I'm going to mark off, like, who pays attention to this thing, right? I sat there for an hour and a half. In an hour and a half, 78 people walked right over it. Most didn't notice it as they had their phone in their hand. 9 people stopped to look at it and laughed and walked over it. 4 adults looked, smiled, went back to the beginning and jumped it. And 6 out of 6 kids jumped the entire thing. So out of 90 adults, only 4 stopped to play and have some fun. Only 4. Now, why do I think that's important to have play in your life? I have a lot of reasons for it, which I'm not going to list all of them, but when you poll people who are dying about what they regret, one of them is they wish they had let themselves be happier. There's a great article on The Guardian a couple years ago about the 5 things that people regret right before they die. And the author wrote this: "This is a surprisingly common one, that people wish they had let themselves be happier. Many did not realize until the end that happiness is a choice. They had stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. The so-called comfort of familiarity overflowed into their emotions as well as their physical lives. Fear of change had them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content, when deep within they longed to laugh properly and have silliness in their life again." Did you catch that line? They long to laugh properly and have silliness in their life again. So if this is you, don't let it be one of your regrets. Consider it for your before I die. My final before I die is this, that I want to unpack a bit. Forgive myself for not being what I don't want to be anyway. This is one of those current, you got to let it go things. When things fell apart, as I talked about earlier, one of the reasons that happened actually is I tried to do things that really aren't my forte, nor do I like doing them. But I did them or attempted to do them because the work demanded it and I was expected to do it. In truth, it's kind of an ouch moment for me because it was a huge failure. And now I'm left holding on to a moment that isn't actually serving me in any capacity anymore. If I let it, it can get in the way of full kind of throttle living. And honestly, perhaps it's one of the most important on my list because we all have them. Things that don't serve us anymore that should go on our before I die list. Because if we address them, we can die in peace and in right relationship with people with a full heart and a clean conscience. I called up my family and my friends and I asked them, what are some of those ouch moments for you that you would like to have? And this is what they said. One of them said that I want to learn how to apologize correctly so people feel it. Another said, I want to reconnect with my sister. Another said, I want to forgive my mother. Another said, I want to find the good from my divorce. And one more said, I want to be completely myself. All of those are potential life moments that get between you and your best life. So think through how you too may have something that speaks to your life and your behavior louder and larger than you'd like it to, and have the courage to actually step up to the plate and address it. I want to end with this. There's a Charlie Brown cartoon where Charlie Brown is complaining to Linus about having the same thing in his lunch every day. And Linus says to Charlie Brown, well, who makes your lunch? And Charlie Brown says, I do. Every day we are living the dash, and often we kind of do what Charlie Brown does. We complain about our life when we are doing the same thing, the same patterns, the same behavior, the same decisions we've always done. And then soon enough, it may be tomorrow, it may be next week, it may be 10 years from now. But soon enough, this is all gone. So change it up, friends. Live large and make your own damn lunch. My only wish and invitation for you today is to take a deep breath and assess your life and decide what it is that needs to go on your list so that you are deciding what you really want the dash to be. And do it before you die. May it be so. Amen.
When you were born, you cried, and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. When you were born, you cried, and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. When you were born, you cried, and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. When you were born, you cried, when you were born, you cried, and you cried, rejoice. Live your life so that, live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. When you were born, you cried, when you were born, you cried, and rejoice. Rejoice. Live your life so that, live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. When you were born, you cried, and rejoice. Rejoice. Live your life so that, live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice, and you rejoice.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join together in singing our closing hymn from the Gray Hymnal, 346. Come sing a song with me.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I, when you hope, when hope is hard to find, and I'll sing a song of love that goes in the winter time. Come dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I, when you hope, when hope is hard to find, and I'll sing a song of love that grows in the winter time. Come warm and rain with me.
please join hands for the closing words? Whatever we can do or dream we can do, let us begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. May we ever be bold in our living and in our loving. Amen.
Aye, aye. Aye, aye.